What's up guys, Lon here from Android Authority, and LG's latest smartphone brings military specifications and a secondary display. Could this be the next smartphone to grace your pocket? Well, that's what we're about to find out in this quick hands-on of the LG V10. So with so many manufacturers switching up the build materials of their smartphones to either metal or glass designs, LG was sort of an outlier among Samsung, HTC, Apple, and even Motorola, but they're looking to change that with the V10. The V10 still has many design elements that makes it pretty clear that this is still an LG device through and through, like the super thin side bezels around the display and rear mounted power and volume keys. The keys are shaped a little bit differently than the G4's keys, but they're nice and large, which makes them very easy to press and find by feel. And another reason for the revamped keys is because the power button now doubles as a fingerprint sensor, and it's a touch and hold type like you would find on the Galaxy S6 or even the iPhone. So it's very easy to use, very easy to set up, and also very quick at unlocking the phone. Instead of an all-plastic build like we're typically used to from most LG phones, the V10 actually features 316L stainless steel metal rails along the sides and Duraskin on the top, bottom, and back panel of the phone, which is not only very soft, comfortable, and grippy, but it also makes the phone more resilient against nicks and scratches. This improved build quality and change in materials makes the V10 a much more premium feeling phone over other LG devices, but also helps the V10 meet military standards for improved durability against drops. It's not exactly a ruggedized smartphone, but this should be great for anyone who is completely butterfingers with their smartphones or just needs a smartphone that can withstand a lot more punishment over your average phone. Despite all of these changes, the V10 still retains a removable back, which gives access to the SIM card, micro SD card slot for extra storage, and most importantly, the removable battery, a feature that is slowly going the way of the dinosaurs. Now, despite having some really thin bezels and a small top and bottom chin, the V10 is still a rather large phone. Not only does it feel really wide, but it's also a very tall phone, and a lot of it has to do with the display. It's a 5.7-inch IPS LCD with a resolution of 2560 by 1440 or Quad HD, and LG has a pretty good track record with making some great looking displays for their smartphones, and the screen on the V10 is no exception. It's extremely sharp, and so far everything else about it looks as good as you would expect from a display on a high-end flagship smartphone. It's got great viewing angles, seems to get fairly bright, and has excellent and accurate looking color reproduction. The most interesting and unique part about this display though is the secondary screen that extends above the main display, and if you measure from the secondary screen to the main display, the screen actually measures in at 5.9 inches. It works as a ticker of sorts, showing you any notifications you might have along with the time whenever the main display is asleep, and if you swipe over to the left, you can quickly toggle through audio profiles, Wi-Fi, turn on the flash, or open up the camera. When the main display is awake, the secondary screen will act as a hub for up to 5 app shortcuts for multitasking, which you can easily customize to any apps of your choice. It can also show you many other things like recently opened applications, music player controls, upcoming events in your calendar, and for a little bit of extra personalization, you can even add a custom message or phrase to be displayed on the secondary screen. Having this secondary display sounds like a really nice idea, but right now it seems rather questionable how useful it can actually be in day-to-day use, especially considering its inconvenient placement at the top, which makes it very hard to reach with one hand. Inside, the V10 is being powered by the same Snapdragon 808 processor that powered the G4, but the V10 comes with 4 gigs of RAM over the 3 that was in the G4, and if the G4 was any indication, then performance on the V10 shouldn't be much of a problem, especially with an extra gig of RAM on board. For storage, the V10 comes with 64 gigs of internal storage, and like I mentioned earlier, you have a micro SD card slot for up to an additional 200 gigabytes if you need more. The battery inside is a 3000 mAh cell, which should be enough to get the V10 through a full day at the least, but we'll have to wait and see how much of an impact that secondary screen has on the battery life. The V10 also has support for hi-fi audio, which can upsample 16-bit 44.1 kHz audio to 32-bit 384 kHz audio to give you the best audio experience possible. The camera on the V10 is pretty much the same as the one on the G4. It's a 16 megapixel sensor, f1.8 with optical image stabilization, and the camera software basically continues over from the G4, so you still have that same DSLR-like controls for pictures, but now on the V10 you also have that same exact control for videos. So you can control the focus, the shutter speed, the white balance, the ISO, all these same controls that you had with photos, you now have that with videos, which is really great, especially if you want to be able to take some very cinematic looking videos on your smartphone and be able to have that full control. The most interesting part about the camera on the V10 though is actually on the front. Instead of one front-facing camera, you actually have two front-facing cameras, both of which are 5 megapixels. And what this allows you to do is switch between a narrower field of view and a much wider field of view on the fly. So a narrower field of view will be great if it's just you in the frame, but if you need to take a group fee or a selfie with a bunch of other people, you can switch to the wider field of view to easily fit your friends or your family into the frame. For the software, it's running on Android 5.1.1 Lollipop with LG's GUI on top. So it's bringing a lot of the same features that you've come to know from LG, like knock on and knock code and split screen multitasking. And LG says that the V10 will be updated to Marshmallow either before the end of this year or early next year. You can expect the V10 to be available in early to mid-November in the US market, and LG wouldn't give us an exact price, but they said it's going to be priced above the G4, so expect a very premium price tag with the V10. But this has been a quick look of the LG V10. Make sure to keep it tuned here to Android Authority for more, because we are your source for all things Android.